Hey, everybody, and we are live. Welcome so much to this week's Stripe Developer Office Hours. My name is Cecil Phillip. I'm a developer advocate here at Stripe. And today we're going to be learning about how to build really fun and interesting applications with Lovable. And I have my friend here, Talisha, who's from Lovable, and she's going to be showing us some demos and talking to us about, like, well, what is Lovable and what can we build with it? And kind of just giving us some insights about, like, some of the things that, her and her team have been working on. So, Alicia, why don't we just start off really quick with some introductions? Why don't you tell folks a little bit about yourself, who you are, and what do you do?
Yeah, so pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Talisha. I am the community lead at Lovable. So, what does that mean? What do I do? It's a really weird job title. So, what I do is it's almost like a dev rel, but more vibey because Lovable is a vibe coding platform. So, I do a lot of workshops. I engage a lot within our community. I plan meetups. I buy too much pizza for those meetups. And in general, I help people build their projects using the Lovable platform.
I like that word vibey. I want to start using that. It's a little vibey. I like that. I like that. Okay. Okay. So we're definitely going to hear from you about, like, Lovable and what does Lovable do. For everyone that's watching, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, anything that you want to share, anything that you want to have answered live on stream, definitely feel free to go ahead and put it in the chat, and we'll do our best to make sure that all your questions get answered for you while we're live. If you so happen to be watching this after the fact, feel free to use the comment section at the bottom of the video, and we'll be monitoring those over the next few weeks or so. And if there's anything important or anything that you guys want to discuss, we will try and address those there as well. Now, before Talisha goes on, I'm going to bring up my screen really quick, and we're going to just go through a few updates about some of the interesting things that are happening around Stripe and around the Stripe ecosystem. Now, if you head over to stripe.dev, and for folks that are not familiar with stripe.dev, that is our developer blog. Our developer relations team works on that, but it features blog posts from folks around the company as well as folks externally as well. Now, we just released this blog post today actually, on using Connect embedded components to streamline your Connect onboarding. If you're familiar with the Stripe Connect, it's kind of like our business to business platform, I guess you could call it, that uses businesses to kind of connect to other businesses, hence the word connect. But as you're using Stripe Connect, we have, just like we have web components for our payment elements, our address elements, our address elements, things of that nature. We also have embedded components as well that can help you with your Connect integrations. So we have things that show you, payouts and account balances and things of that nature. And this one is here to help you with onboarding, right? So how can you use Connect elements to help you with onboarding? So definitely recommend you check this out if you're a Connect customer and you want to have more of that integrated experience instead of jumping back and forth between websites. You can have a seamless kind of experience for your users. Definitely recommend that you check this out about the embedded onboarding. Another thing I wanted to bring up really quick. So you may or not have seen this before, but we released the Stripe Agent Toolkit a few months ago, and our Agent Toolkit is probably not what you think it is. It doesn't allow you to create agents, but instead we plug into other agent frameworks. So if you're building things with LangChain, if you're building things with CrewAI, with the OpenAI Agent SDK, you can use this to add tools, to use our MCP server, all this types of stuff, and add it into your agentic workflow. So if you wanted to add, a little bit of stripiness, right, and allow yourself to make payments or query customers or products or anything of the sort using your agents, you can use this framework to help you do that. Now, this is open source, as you can see. This is the GitHub repo. We are definitely very much open for folks to submit issues, to send us pull requests. So definitely try it out. If you have any thoughts about it, let us know in the discussion area or in the issues. And if you feel like working on a feature, definitely feel free to go ahead and submit a PR. We'll take those as well. Next thing I want to pull up really quick. So for folks that may or may not know this as well, we do Stripe meetups across the world. We have Stripe offices in different, cities and locations and things of that nature. We have a few meetups that are coming up, happening on July 10th. If folks are in Amsterdam, we'll be hosting a meetup in the Stripe office there. And then the following week on the 15th and 17th, we'll be in London and Dublin. So we'll have again folks from inside of Stripe, outside of Stripe, giving presentations. Obviously, too, there'll be like some networking time, and there will be food and drinks. So if folks want to come and just hang out for their end of day after work kind of thing, definitely feel free to do that. But if you head over to our Meetup Pro page, you'll notice that we don't just do London and Dublin and Amsterdam, right? Like we have all of these other cities that we're doing meetups in as well. So New York, Austin, Chicago, Dublin, London, Paris, and then we're hoping to open up some others coming up later in the year. So we'll see how that goes. Um, okay, and let's move forward. The next thing I want to call out is our Stripe tour. Now, if the folks are familiar with the Stripe sessions, so Stripe sessions is like our yearly conference that we do. Usually, always happens in San Francisco. Well, Stripe tour is almost like a version of Stripe sessions, but we do it across different cities, again, all across the world. So we had some already. We had London, Paris, and Berlin. But if you happen to be in Singapore, Tokyo, Sydney, or even in New York, we'll be having some of those sessions there as well. So definitely feel free to come out and join us for Stripe Tour. And with that being said, I think that's about it, right? So that's all I have to share from my screen. So I'm going to take my screen off, and we're gonna start bugging Talisha now a little bit to learn about Lovable. Now, for folks that haven't heard about Lovable before, like give me like the 30-second elevator pitch. Like what is it and what does it do?
Yeah, so Lovable allows anyone to create web apps using just natural language. So I like to say you can prompt things into existence. You don't have to be technical. You
Mhm.
don't have to have any formal coding knowledge.
Hmm.
You can literally just say, make me a landing page about puppies. And then there you go. A
Awesome.
few seconds or a minute later, you have a landing page about puppies.
That is fantastic. I really like puppies, to be honest with you. I have this completely off tangent. Um, I have this ongoing war with one of my friends, cats versus dogs. Which one's better, right? So I'm a dog person, right? Dogs, puppies, all about it. But she's a cat person, and so we literally go back and forth on each other, cats versus dogs. So you know what? You've just kind of given me an idea. Maybe I should come on Lovable and I should create a website called Cats versus Dogs. I mean, her could like fight in public. Everyone could be a
Yes,
part
I love
of
it.
what we're doing.
You definitely can, and you can add a poll for everybody who comes in who can vote for
There you
cats
go.
or dogs. I would have to vote for cats because I have a cat named
You're
Cupcake.
a cat person. Ah,
I am.
okay, that's fine. I love cat people too. I just don't like the cats, but that's fine. That's totally fine.
They don't like you either. I mean, my cat, she has a very spunky attitude, I would say.
Really, that's funny. That's funny. That's funny. Okay, so using natural language, I can go over to Lovable. It says lovable.dev, and I actually had the URL up on the screen really quickly. I can head over to lovable.dev, and I'm guessing I'll see like chat prompts, and then I could kind of just like prompt my way into like an application of some sort, right? Um,
Exactly.
how so when you say I can generate it with natural language, does that mean that Lovable obviously it generates the code, but does it do like the hosting and set up URLs and all that other stuff for me as well? Like what's the limitation on website? You know what I mean?
Yeah, so the limitation is really your imagination. So Lovable does actually handle all of the hosting for you. You do not have to spin up your own web server. There's no need to go into the terminal. You just push a big blue button and your website is hosted on the internet. You can also do backend capabilities by connecting with Supabase for your database, which is we have
Mm,
a native integration there. But if you want to bring your own outside database, we can support that as well. You might have to configure that yourself. It's not
mhm.
a button, unfortunately,
Yeah,
yet,
yeah.
but you can bring your own database, you can bring your own authentication, etc. So the limit really is, what your imagination is. Also, we have custom domains. You don't even have to set up your own
Mm,
DNS. You just
nice.
type in the domain, click more buttons, and then, 24 hours it propagates and you have mycoolsite.com.
Huh. Okay. So I can think about Lovable as doing a lot of the front end work for my application. And then if I wanted to, let's say I wanted to set up like a login, right? Like a user, user database or anything of the sort. Then at that point, then I can connect to something like you said, like Superbase or some other thing, right? Like I can connect that to Lovable. But then
Exactly.
I'm assuming Lovable, like it understands that. It's like, oh, you're trying to connect me to this thing. And so now these components that I'm like vibe prompting through, right, is going to be able to connect to those things. And now my UI that I'm generating is like, oh, okay, you have a database with these fields, right? Like I can generate these fields and then it'll go in the database and it'll kind of like figure that stuff out, like as we're, like you said, like as we're vibing through like the situation.
Exactly. Yeah. So if you connect with Superbase, you can literally just say, I want log in and sign up. And then after they sign up, redirect to the dashboard page. Lovable will write all of the SQL code for your database. So you don't even have to go in and touch your database or
Mhm.
create any of those tables.
Oh, nice.
Lovable does it for you. And then afterwards, you click, okay, that's what I want. And then you can just go in and test it and you have login, sign up in the dashboard.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And this is all like an in-browser experience, right? Is
Yeah.
there like a, so for folks that like, editors, is there like a VS Code extension or a cursor extension, or is there a Lovable CLI that I could like vibe code in my terminal kind of thing, or is this solely like on a UI, like a browser-based UI situation?
Yeah, so it is solely on the browser-based UI. However, you can connect to your GitHub, and then of course you can clone down your repository locally, in Cursor, in VS Code, any in a notebook if you wanted to, edit your
Yeah.
code, and then if, which I think this is one of the coolest feature for people who are developers, if you then want to push and commit your code back to GitHub, it will automatically be fetched within Lovable. So then once you go back to Lovable, that latest commit is already there. You don't have to get pull or anything of the sort. It's just like external commit. This is what you did. And
Huh.
you just keep on vibing.
I really like that, right? So because now it gives me the opportunity of choice, right? Like I have the choice to, like you said, like natural language prompt through, whatever it is I'm trying to build. But then if I wanted to, I could connect it to GitHub. I could actually see the code that was generated, right?
Mhm.
I could tweak it. I could make whatever changes I wanted to make with it. But then Lovable will still look at those changes and be like, okay, I get it, right? And it'll just kind of bring it back in the system. So I could vibe some stuff, I could code some stuff, and I could vibe some stuff again. I could kind of just go back and forth depending on whatever it is that we're trying to build.
Exactly, exactly. And I really like that as well because, as you know, LLMs do still have some limitations. I
Mhm.
like to think of LLMs as like a very smart toddler. So they are very capable, but they do still mess things up. And sometimes, especially if you are an engineer or a developer, you just want to get in there and just fix it for the LLM and say, okay, this is how I like to write my code. We're going to write it like this. I'm
Right.
going to fix it and then I'll give it back to you. So I like that you have that option in Lovable.
I'm glad you said that because I used that a similar analogy with someone the other day. I'm like, LLMs are really smart at answering questions, but like we have to help them understand the question. And so it's almost like, again, like it's like you're talking to a 5-year-old, right? I
Exactly.
have I know a lot of things and I can give you information, but like you have to explain it to me in a way that I can know exactly what it is that you want me to do, right? I think I was talking to my dad, and he was like, so can I just go to AI and be like, build me a medical practice? And I'm like, well, no, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that today. Maybe in a couple of years it will, but it doesn't work like that today, right? You can't vibe code a medical practice, but I'm sure you could say, hey, I want a website and then I wanted to do these things, right? Like even if you break it down from I'm starting a company to, okay, well, my company, one of the things I need when I start a company is a website. How do I build a website? Build a website for me. And I'm like, well, there's a lot of questions there, right? Like there's a lot of detail that you need to supply. What color scheme do you want? Who's the website for? What is it about? Are we going to have logins or not? You know what I mean? Where's it going to be hosted? So many different questions, right? And so I see a lot of folks, particularly like non-technical folks, that are seeing this stuff and they're like, hey, I'm going to prompt my way to a product, but they don't know how to break down the problem, right? And I think that's the thing with prompt engineering, right? Like we have to figure out how to break down the problem to properly get what we want out of this 5-year old that's like super smart and a little expensive sometimes for us to kind of talk to.
Right. Yeah. No, exactly. Precisely. And I think one of the other cool things about using Lovable is that we actually have a chat mode. So you can kind of ask those questions to Lovable
Hmm.
and give it that additional context and almost brainstorm with Lovable and then have it apply that plan that it created and implement those changes, which I think is really cool.
Nice. Can we bring up your screen and at least like take a look at Lovable as we're like
Let's do
talking
it.
things? Okay,
Yes.
cool. All right. So your screen is all right, cool. So we see your screen now. So this is lovable.dev that we're looking at right now. So this is like the default experience.
Yes, so this is our home page. As you can see here, we have the prompt box, and that's
Mhm.
where you type in whatever it is that you want to build. So we could literally type in a landing page for determining if dogs or cats are better. You don't have to make really detailed prompts if you don't want to. You can also attach images, screenshots, and then
Yeah.
you can attach Supabase as you're getting started. So
Yeah.
if you wanted to have, a database, login, authentication, etc., you can do that all in a single prompt.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
When I come to this page, I notice the prompt is available for me, but it's not asking me to sign up. It's not asking me for any money, right? Like, so when I come in and I start, vibing through whatever it is I'm trying to build, I'm guessing at some point we have to pay for this, right? Like how does that happen? Like how far can I go before Lovable is like, okay, you need to give us money now?
Yeah, so you actually get 5 free prompts a day. So
Oh,
you can come in, sign up. After you click go, if you're not signed in, it will prompt you to sign up so that
hmm,
we can associate your projects with who you are. But then
gotcha.
after that, you get 5 free prompts a day and
And then
you
you
get
can kind of just take it from there,
yeah, you just
depending.
take it there, yeah.
Okay,
Mm,
awesome.
yeah, and you can also get free credits by referring people.
Ooh, I like free credits.
Who doesn't? So I'm gonna run this, but I actually already made a site.
Hmm.
And this site is actually already integrated with Stripe.
Oh,
So one of the cool things about Lovable is that if you want to integrate with Stripe and you want to get paid for, your vibe coded SaaS startup that you created, Lovable makes it extremely easy. The only thing you really have to do is set up your Stripe account and you don't have to know anything else. So you don't have to worry about anything.
mhm.
Lovable will take care of it for you.
You know,
If you're one of those people like me who doesn't really like to read docs, that's okay. You don't have to read them, even
yeah.
though you should read the text, but
Reading
you
is
don't have to.
fundamental. We encourage folks to still read the documentation.
Exactly. You should definitely still read them, but you don't have to. So I created this website called Pixel Pond. It basically just lets you prompt like images and things. And as you can see, I have my base plan of $10 a month and then pay as you go. So if you go over your 100 images, you can get additional images paid, or you can sign up to just pay as you go if you don't want to start with the $10.
Hmm.
So I am going to sign into an account that I already have. And again, Lovable just did this for me. I just told it, I wish I could told it to remember my password. Okay, I did remember it. But I just told it to like create this website. As you can see here, I put in this prompt, built this web app. I want these type of buttons. I want these different types of pricing, etc. And then I told it to do the Stripe integration, and this is what I want to use, right?
Yeah.
So it did all of that for me in just this one prompt. So we'll go back, and as you can see, I have generated 2 images this month. I have a subscription already, and it also integrated with Stripe's billing portal. So if I click on Manage Plan, it will go automatically to the
Oh
Stripe
wow, nice.
billing. Yeah, and I actually didn't tell it to do this.
Yeah.
So I'm really glad it did. So I'm able, as a user of my product, I'm able to go in and, edit my subscription, upgrade, cancel, etc. So I am going to versus a dog. Okay, it's going to generate an image, and then I will get billed for it, but I won't actually get billed because this is not real money.
Yeah. Huh.
So, which
And
is
so
cool.
you didn't have to write a line of code. You, again, natural language, right? Like you spoke to Lovable, right? And it kind of just did all of this for you.
Yes, exactly. So as you can see, I've did 3 images, 30 cents. I can click and there's a
Hmm.
giant cat. Look how big the cat is. I
There's
love
there's obvious bias here, but I'm not saying anything about it. Like there's
yes. Cool. So we're going to sign out of that. And I do want to walk you through creating a new account. So showing what the billing process is. It's just gonna be a random
no.
test account, right? So Talisha plus test plus try lovable dot dev. I'm gonna create a password. I'm gonna create an account and sign in.
Okay.
So on this account, you can see that my status is inactive. I do not have a subscription. So if I
Mhm.
go to subscribe now, you can see I have 2 different subscriptions I can go. I can choose my pro plan, and just like that, I'm redirected to the Stripe
Checkout page.
checkout page.
Mhm.
Exactly. So if I go back to the Lovable project where I am creating my project, you can see it gave me a bunch of SQL
Yeah.
that I implemented. And then it also gave me how to add my Stripe secret key. So it
Mhm.
gave me not only the documentations, if I'm unaware what is a secret key? I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
It's fine. It will take you exactly to this page, right? So it takes me right to my Stripe secret key. And this is literally the only time that I need to go into Stripe. So I didn't even have to configure any products myself or anything of that.
Oh.
Uh, I just clicked to copy this secret key.
Yeah.
And then I clicked the button that said add API key. I entered my API key and clicked submit. And that automatically put it into my Supabase account, which
Hmm.
is acting as my backend for this project.
Nice. You
Yeah.
know, I can think of a lot of ideas that I would love to kind of like vibe build with Lovable.
Mm.
I'm kind of curious. Have you and your team like seen any really interesting things that people have built, like things that folks have done, and you're just like, oh wow, like I didn't think we could do it, but obviously we can, kind of thing.
Oh, yeah. I've seen some crazy things. Just yesterday, I saw someone, they created a 3D video game
Mhm.
using Lovable. There is someone who, a lot of video games. She created a video game image generator.
Mhm.
Yeah, a video game image generator. So you can generate like assets for your video game. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna pull that up. I actually forgot to pull it up, but I want to pull it up for you guys. She actually just integrated Stripe with her new, like, so now she can like charge people for it. So like she made this AI game maker, and it creates video games and it creates video game assets for you. And this was built on Lovable, and she
Oh, nice.
just integrated
Huh.
a pricing page where if you go click on this one, this will be real money. This is not fake money.
Right.
Like,
This is the real deal.
this is the real deal. And so she did this with Lovable, and she just vibe coded it. Now, the person who created this, she is an engineer by trade. However, she didn't have to be in order to integrate Stripe into her platform
Sure.
called
Sure. Sure.
Playmix, which I think this is really cool. And there's tons of crazy things that people have created. From there's someone who made an app to see the health of backyard chickens.
Mhm.
I've seen someone doing mortgage analysis. There's someone doing an online school
Mhm.
for uh, children like K through 5, and it creates like AI lesson plans for STEM subjects. So literally your imagination is your only limit when it comes to using Lovable to do things.
One thing I'm curious about is when you integrate with Stripe, a big part of it is one, using the APIs, but then two, handling webhooks, right? And as you set up your Stripe account, you have different types of payment methods, and some of them are, like, we call them immediate, like credit cards are immediate, like it happens right now. But in
Yes.
some of them, if you look at countries like Mexico and Brazil and some other places, like they're deferred, so they take a little while. So we need those webhooks to send us messages.
Hmm.
Does Lovable handle connecting webhooks in the?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Delisha.
So Lovable does handle connecting your webhooks. So it doesn't really show it in this. It's kind of like a background function.
Mhm.
But inside of your Supabase, you have your edge functions. And here is where it created all of the functions
Oh,
needed for, see, creating subscription, getting invoices, recording usage, the
got it.
customer portal. So any webhook or action that is taking place with
Mm,
your Stripe account. So if I go
yeah,
click on one of my customers, and you can see the different, wait, this one doesn't have any subscriptions. Okay, I didn't buy anything on this one. If I go to one of my customers and I can see the different, all of the logs that happen, these are actually being sent to the database and
mhm,
they're being checked. So these webhooks that normally, as you know, without vibe coding, I would have to go in and
yeah,
I never remember where it is. So I always just search for webhook and I copy the thing and I have to write it. You don't have to do any of that. Lovable takes care of all of this for you.
that's
And
perfect.
yeah. Like it even created my product. So I didn't have to manually go. I didn't type this. This
Right.
was not Talisha. Okay.
Mhm.
Lovable went in, they named it, they set
Wow.
it up for me. They set up, how the subscription work, is it monthly, yearly, etc. It did all of that for me. All I did was vibe and scroll on TikTok for too long.
I love how you said you just vibed and scroll on TikTok. That's awesome. I love that. Um, I love that it also does this product provisioning for you, right? Because again, it's like creating products in Stripe isn't a hard thing to do, but it is just another thing to do, right? And
Exactly.
so the less that you have to do as the builder, the more you can actually focus on creating an experience that you want to give your customers, right? Like what do you want them to do? How do you want them to feel? Like you can think about some of those other things a little bit more deeply before you kind of go in, and then you start to like actually implement that stuff, right? Or you can actually even like experiment with it too, right? Because and I love the fact that you can show folks in that space, and then it's like, okay, like when I said in that space, I'm talking about like you have the preview of the UI, and then you have like your prompt chat area on the left, and
Hmm.
I can just talk through it, right? Like so as I'm having these ideas, I'm like, well, maybe I want it horizontal and not vertical. Maybe I want to change it from purple to orange. You know what I mean? Like you can kind of go through like these different perspectives. Maybe I want to add a feedback button. Maybe I want to, add affiliate links, right? Like and kind of just talk through these things and then see it in real time. And then when you're ready, like you said, like because if Lovable is handling the hosting for you, I can just publish it, right? Like I can just let it go, right? And then I have the Superbase thing in the back. I have my UI and stuff all in Lovable. I have GitHub as a fallback, I guess, and I guess I call it fallback because we don't really have to use it, right? Like I have my GitHub in the back, and I could look at the code and review it if I wanted to. You know what I mean? But then we can still just keep moving with a very easy to use like visual aid, right? In a very natural way of just speaking to the product and watching it build in real time.
Yes, exactly. And as you brought up, like you have GitHub, which is over here. You also, if you want to just make a little tweak change and you want to like get in the code very quickly, we do have code mode where you just toggle on those, and I can just go in and change any of these files. I can
Mhm.
go in and I can see my edge functions and see like how it's handling these webhooks and creating this information if
Mhm.
that's something that I want to do. I know a lot of people actually do like seeing this and reading it and understanding it.
Sure.
So if that's something you want to do, it is there for you. But like I said again, you don't have to. Um, it's not like it's like you said, it's not hard to create products or go create your webhook or set any of these things up, but
Yeah.
it is just another step of something that you're gonna have to manually do. Like you have to manually go click the button,
Mhm.
write the words, etc. And that takes time. But Lovable literally just does it for you, which is really fun, I think.
I'm really curious about the models that are underneath it, and I'm curious for two reasons. One, do do folks have the option to switch the model they're using? Like, so again, if I'm thinking about VS Code, or if I'm thinking about any of those other types of editors, I want to say other type. I mean, like the desktop editors, right? There's
Yeah.
usually like a button at the bottom, and I could say, hey, choose Anthropic, choose Google, choose whatever, right? Choose Hugging Face, right? Like, is that an option that we have here to switch the types of models it uses, or is Lovable using something very custom, and so you're just kind of like masking it from folks being able to like poke into that?
Yeah, so we do not have where you can choose your own model. And the
Mhm.
reason being is because we choose the best model for the task.
Got it.
So, Anthropic, Gemini, etc., they all have their like very particular strengths for each model. And so
Mhm.
when you send in a request, we actually choose which model is going to perform the best and give
Yeah.
you the best result. So it just automatically chooses for you, which
Yeah.
also makes it easier because you don't have to think about it, which I
Well,
think is great.
I like that from a product perspective, because if I am not a developer, if I'm
Hmm.
not a seasoned developer, right, I probably don't care about the model,
Right.
right? I care about the product. It's almost like I tell people, when you're building something, your developers care about the framework and the database and the other stuff, but like your customers don't care, right? So you as like the company, and me as the customer, even though I'm a developer, I'm still your customer. I just want you to give me a website, right? Like I probably don't care about which one or how many different ones you use. I just care if I talk to this thing that it gives me the result that I expect, right? And now I can kind of, like you said, I can go through different iterations of prompting and conversations or whatever. So
Mhm.
it's probably a better user experience for a product like this, that we don't show people that stuff, right? So now it's just like their models, and we kind of just wave our hand like it's Star Wars or something, right? Like the models are there, kind of thing, and then you just know that it kind of works.
Exactly.
Um, my
Exactly.
my second question about the models is, so given that that's the case, um, one of the things I know, particularly when it comes to Stripe, like we're updating our docs constantly, right? And so have our own model. Our model is not like a publicly accessible thing, but like you can talk to our agents that are built on our models, and we are feeding it updated docs on a fairly regular basis, right?
Hmm.
So I guess I'm wondering, like, how often are you updating your models? Because again, if a new thing comes out tomorrow, or a security update, or a new version of an API, like how quickly can I expect some of that information to be able to be available in Lovable for me to talk to it? Or would I just have to, like, again, go over to GitHub and put it in myself and then put it back in?
Yeah, so one of the cool things is Lovable has the ability to actually scrape the web. So
Mhm.
let's say that like OpenAI in like 30 minutes launched this new thing, which they have done before. They randomly tweet, "We're going live in 45 minutes." And then they
Yeah.
launch this, this new model and this new thing.
Yeah.
Obviously, none of the LLMs, have the context for this new model. It just
Yeah.
launched 2 minutes ago.
Hmm.
Well, you can grab that press release, you can grab those new docs, and you can paste that URL inside of Lovable and say, hey, I want to implement this.
Oh.
And it's also really great for, let's say, you're trying to do something fairly complex in Stripe. You're just trying to do usage prices and you have Stripe Connect, and then there's like 6 other stores, and you're trying to share credits across these. Like you're trying to do something that's frankly you probably don't know what you're doing anyways.
Yeah.
You're just trying to make something up. You can put in the Stripe documentation, even though LLMs and Lovable has all of the documentation. Maybe you found an example from a blog post. So you can
Hmm.
put in that URL for that example and say, I'm trying to do it like this. Maybe I'm not explaining it correctly, but I
Yeah.
want it to work like this. And then Lovable will go out, it will read that blog post, and it'll go, oh, okay, I now understand what you were trying to do, and I can implement that for you, which I also think is really cool.
Okay. That's perfect then, right? So that we can as we're prompted, we can give it our own context, right? Like we can be
So
like, look at this doc, look at this blog post, look at this sample. Um, how how much context can we give it, right? Um,
yeah.
and again, the reason I asked is because I've tried to give whole repos to LLMs, and it's like you have surpassed your limit by like 1,000%. I'm like, oh, this repo is too big, obviously. Um,
Right.
so can I point it at GitHub and like, hey, look at 10 files, right? Or like how much context can I give it as it's like inferencing stuff?
Yeah. So you can give it a lot of context. I don't have an exact number because
Yeah.
it depends on the LLM that gets used
Yeah.
for that particular task.
Sure.
But overall, I have never reached the limit.
Okay.
Also, with the new scraping, you can give it a URL to GitHub.
Mm.
As long as it's a publicly accessible GitHub, obviously, you can't give it a private link.
Yeah.
But you can give it a URL, and then it can go through and it will look through the different pages and the different files, as well as it
Mm.
will do that within your Lovable project. So, one of the cool things I see a lot of people do is within the code itself, they go and create a kind of like a supplemental knowledge file with
Mhm.
additional random information, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And Lovable can go in and then read that for certain things. We also have native knowledge file. If you go to your project settings
Mhm.
and click on knowledge, you can add instructions for Lovable there. So it just depends on like
Yeah.
what you do, but you can put obviously as much context as you want into
Mhm.
your code base, and Lovable will go and read that.
Okay. Awesome. Can
Yeah.
So I'm looking at the example that you showed us. So we see that you can generate SQL and obviously HTML and CSS and a lot of those web-based assets. Um, does it outside of JavaScript, like does it support other languages? Can it do like Ruby and Python? Could it do, I don't know, C# and Java, Go? You know what I mean? Like can it go through different languages?
Yeah, so Lovable is an opinionated tech stack. So unfortunately, it only writes in TypeScript, React, and Byte. It will
Okay.
not write in other languages.
Okay.
However, it does understand other languages. So I have found, random AI startups and open source repositories with something I want to use, and maybe their only example is in Python or something, and then I'll paste in that Python and say, I want to use this. Let's translate it to TypeScript and figure out how I can use it. And
Okay.
Lenovo actually does a good job at that.
Yeah. Okay. And and I'm bringing this up because you did mention the GitHub integration. I
Yes.
know for a lot of companies, for a decent amount of companies, they like to do mono repos with like multiple projects inside of a single repo.
Yeah.
So if I have a repo in GitHub, a single repo, but it has different projects in it, and those projects happen to be running on different using like different languages in each of those projects. I mean, obviously not like a different language per folder, but maybe in that project, maybe in that repo, there's like three different languages, right, across like the different components of it. Um, when that syncs back into Lovable, like we should be fine, right? Like I should be able to say, hey, this folder has my front end, make these changes. This other stuff is back end stuff. You know what I mean? Like, is that still okay for us to do? Because even though Lovable didn't generate it, I should still be able to talk to it, right? And have it figure some of that stuff out.
Yeah, as long as the project was started in Lovable, so you can't import a repository that you already had. But
Okay.
say I made, this pixel pond, I exported it to GitHub, I pulled it down on my local machine, I put a bunch of Python in it, and then I pushed it back.
Yeah.
As long as that initial file, your index.js is still
Hmm.
there, it will still run. You
Okay,
know,
that's perfect. That's
it will
perfect.
just ignore the Python. It might ask you, why did you put all of this Python into this? But it will still run. So just ignore it and be like, I mean, okay. Which I have actually done that before.
Really. Like
Yeah.
you're making Lovable sound kind of spicy because I'm gonna put some .NET in there and it's gonna be like, well, you put that code in there for? You know? Like, why are you mixing this stuff up with my JavaScript? Like, I don't like this. You know?
Exactly. Yeah. So, but no, overall, Livable, super easy to use.
Okay.
It makes it super easy to integrate with Stripe. However, the only caveat is that you must have a backend. I mean, well, obviously, so that your secret keys are not just out there in the world
Sure.
willy nilly. So you're gonna have to make sure you have a backend, and we suggest Superbase just because it works very well with Lovable. But after that, you put in it creates all of your edge functions, all of your webhooks for you. You have your secret keys here, and it'll put, I mean, I just copy and paste it
Yeah.
into Lovable, not the chat, into the secret key box. Don't
Mhm.
paste your API keys into the
And
chat. Yeah, don't do that. We do mask them if you do accidentally do it, but hackers are gonna hack, so just never do that in general. But
okay.
yeah, so like this is the page from our simple prompt that it did. As you can see, it generated images of cats and dogs. I can vote for cats. Yay, cats.
I love this. I love this site. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, just one simple prompt, easy. And then if I wanted to take this further, and maybe I wanted to charge people $1 to vote for their cats and dogs, and I was raising money for the Humane Society, right? Which actually would be a pretty good fundraiser. I would simply connect Stripe, connect my super base, and say I want to charge $1 for every vote using Stripe, and then it would literally go out, set up the webhooks. It would set up the product page if it
Yeah.
wanted to use a product page or a donation page where it could input a variable amount of money. Like
Yeah.
it would do all of that for me. And then I would come back and I would click the button and like a little pop up would come up and it would say, hey, you want to donate $1 or $5 for a vote? And it would just do it, which is cool.
Hmm. Outside of Superbase, is there is there the potential to connect other types of backends? Um, so I know you mentioned like we can add a database, but if I had like OpenAI, right? I'm building a thing and it has like some inferencing in it, right?
Hmm.
I guess I could just copy the key into the Superbase backend, I suppose. But
Yeah.
like, let's say I didn't want to use Superbase, right? Like, does Lovable have like a secret store that I could just put keys in, like a configuration thing, or are there other things that I could connect to outside of Superbase?
Yeah, so Lovable itself doesn't have a secret store, but so before I worked at Lovable, I was a like backend engineer. And
Hmm.
so I really, really like Python and
Yeah.
making my own Python servers. So
Hmm.
I have connected Lovable's front end to my Python servers back end
Okay.
several times. So if you have, a server living somewhere in the cloud and maybe it's Python, maybe you're one of those people who like Rust and C. I don't know why you would be one of those
I can
people.
feel like the shade like just coming off of you. Like, what is happening right now? What are
Well,
you
I mean,
doing?
I'm not here to judge, but
Uh,
I'm just saying
I'm just saying.
if you wanted to create one of those servers and connect it to
Okay.
Lovable, you might have to do a like it won't be as vibey as clicking the buttons, but it will work and it's not really that hard to do, which is great.
Okay. And also I just wanted to be known, like I'm not a Rust C++ developer, but I'm just saying I'm noticing some energy coming off of there. So I was just wondering. I was just wondering what it was.
No, I mean I the first ever programming language I learned was C,
Uh-huh.
not C plus plus, not
Just
C sharp. It was C,
yeah.
and C is a mean language. It like yells at you.
I get it. I get it. I tried to self teach myself C once. Yeah, so I get it. I totally get it.
Yeah,
I'm good at it.
it's just so mean. I was like, I was
That's funny.
trying. Why are you yelling at me? Because I leaked all of my memory. You don't
Oh,
need 50 exclamation points. I can see.
that's funny. Oh my gosh, that is hilarious.
But if you want to create your own server and connect it to Lovable, again, it's pretty simple, and we have the GitHub integration, which makes it even simpler to pull that code down and add in that necessary server file information that you need and
Yeah.
push it to Lovable, which is really great. A lot of people use Lovable just to make the back end, I mean, just to make the front end
Mhm.
and make the back end, all on their own.
Okay. And I'm glad you said that because that was going to be my next question. So as I'm thinking about Lovable in my development cycle, right? And I think we now like now we're redefining what a development cycle is in the world of
Right.
AI. But like
Exactly.
in my typical development cycle, right? Like there's like a build, test, deploy thing that we do, right?
Mhm.
Just in this case, like my building is actually prompting, right? And I'm prompting through Lovable or Claude or whatever LLMs that I'm using to like create the thing for me. What does the test cycle look like? Like, is there like can I run? How would I run my like if I'm using Playwright or Selenium? Like, how can Lovable create those tests for me and run those? Or is that a thing that I'd have to do myself? Or if I wanted to implement like some analytics, I want to add Google Analytics or Plausible or one of these types of things to the front end. Like how would I do some of those extra things?
Yeah, so you can like prompt Lovable to do those things. One of the
Mhm.
great features I like to use is chat mode. So like I would just tell it to say I want to implement some tests. How would I do that? I would probably write a little bit better prompt than that. But
Sure.
like you can ask Lovable, hey, I want to do some testing. What's the best way to do this? And then it'll give me like a plan. Okay, you can use A, B, C, D, and E. I can choose one, click implement the plan, and then it will do that for me.
Hmm.
When it comes to analytics, kind of the same thing. I can say, hey, I want to add Google Analytics. I want to add Post Hog. You can even tell it I want to view all of my Google Analytics like in an admin, page within my web app. Can you use the API and yada 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 blah blah blah. So you can tell Lovable to do these things. When it comes to testing, though, I do recommend manual testing is the best because AI lies to us and it's very agreeable. So if you tell AI you want tests, it will probably write a lot of tests that make it looks like it was doing a good job, even
Hmm.
though maybe it wasn't because AI is trying to make you feel great.
Yeah.
So I don't always trust some of the things that the AI tells me.
Sure.
And I like to click the buttons myself. But if you want to, like, see, they're suggesting these different frameworks, and
Hmm.
hey, we can test it this way, and we can do this, and we can set up this, and this is how it's going to look,
Yeah.
and whatever. And then I can just click implement the plan, and it will do all of that for me. So it does make testing super easy, makes analytics super easy, and we do have some things coming down the roadmap to make it even easier,
Okay.
because we want to empower anybody, no matter what your development skill level is, to be able to create beautiful full stack web applications.
Yeah. So you'd mentioned that sometimes you switch to chat mode, and then I notice for most of this conversation you've been in edit mode. But
Mhm.
I think y'all recently announced agent mode too, right? But
Yes, yes,
could
we
you could you
did.
tell us a little bit about that and what does that mean for folks that are using Lovable?
Yes. So our new agent mode is kind of like a very advanced AI engineer. I guess that's the best way to describe it.
Sure.
So it's able to do more than one or two tasks at a time. So usually when people are just getting into vibe coding, I tell them that you shouldn't give any AI really a bunch of things to do, because like we said earlier, it's kind of like a really smart toddler. If you tell a toddler to do 6 7 things, that toddler is probably going to do none of those things, and it's going to return to you with a lollipop, and it's going to be like, look mom, I have a lollipop, and you're going to be like, where did you get that lollipop from? And AI usually does that as well. You tell it to do a list of things, it comes back, and now your website is blue, and you're like, I this is not what I asked you to do. Now in agent mode, it is better at understanding what your intent is when you write your prompts. It is better at following directions. Like it says, it cuts down on those unwanted changes. So agent mode is not going to come back to you with that lollipop. It's going to come
Yeah.
back with those changes that you wanted to use. Also, it has some really cool new capabilities, so it can search your code base, extract files, functions, components. It can read the files on demand. It can inspect your console logs, your network activity to help you debug, so you don't have to copy and paste console logs and say fix it a million and one times.
Yeah.
You can just say, hey, something's going weird, and then Lovable will go, well, let me check the logs for you, let me go check the edge function, let me check the network. Like, it
Yeah.
would do all the things you as a developer would manually go do. It will do it for you. It searches the web, and also it generates those AI images of like that cat and dog we saw. So
Right.
it makes it just more capable and more closer to AGI. Is that how I should describe it? It makes it easier for everyone to be able to use Lovable without having to have any engineering knowledge,
Right.
without having to write the best prompts or doing prompt engineering, which is really cool. Yeah.
Okay. Hmm.
So yeah.
Um, so the thing for me is always about like how easy a tool is to get people to use. And I think this new wave, this new culture that we have of like talking to the code, right, um, is really interesting to me, right? Because like I was telling you, like you and I could be in a room and we could be sitting down and like we're talking out the idea, and I could imagine like Lovable being, metaphorically speaking, like the fly on the wall, right? That's listening to the conversation, and then just kind of like, oh, okay, based on the conversation you have, this is what you want to build. This is how you want it to work. Da 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 da. Yes or no. You hit the yes button, and then poof, like there's a business, right? Or there's a website, or there's an app, or there's
Exactly.
a thing that people could start using. And I also love how the fact that we can just kind of come in and we can just get started, right? We just start with prompting, and then I can optionally add things as I go on. Like I can optionally add my GitHub when I'm ready. I can optionally add Superbase or whatever other thing, right? Like I can optionally add those things as we go on, and then yeah, I mean you handle the hosting for us too, so that's pretty awesome. Um, in terms of like the cost, and I don't know if you're like want to talk about pricing and stuff like that, but
Yeah, no,
I,
it's fine.
I know there's there's a usage limit, right? There's a usage for the prompting, but what does it cost for the hosting? Is there a hosting fee, or is that
There's no hosting fee. So when you publish, and like I said, you literally just click the publish button, your hosting is included in your project costs, right? So
okay?
it's just boom, this is your hosted web app, right?
Huh.
And that's it. So
Okay.
do we have limits on our hosting? Technically, yes. But if you reach our limit, which is pretty high, if you reach it, we will probably like fly you out to Stockholm or something because you probably made a viral app and we'll probably be so excited
Like
that
you're
you're like,
slammed with so much
yeah,
traffic, like you got to figure something else out.
yeah.
Okay.
So like I wouldn't worry about it because it's pretty high. You
Okay.
probably won't reach it.
Okay, that was my concern because I figured because I'm looking at it and I'm figuring like there's two things, right? Like there's the cost of the prompting, and like you said, like we get 5 free every day, but then after that you have to have a plan. So I
Yeah.
was also wondering, does that plan like what is the if I have 5 websites on Lovable, like what am I paying just for the hosting of them outside of the prompting? But that makes sense. That makes sense. Cool. So folks, we're getting close to the end. We have just about 5 more minutes before we get to the end of the show. Um, Talisha, for folks that are watching, like what would you like? What do you think for them is like the best place for them to get started? And I know you showed us like the front page or whatever, but like
Mhm.
I'm guessing you guys have blogs, you guys are doing videos, you guys have Discord channels. Do you have like community pages that people could go to and stuff like that?
Yes. So if you want inspiration and like you're like, I don't know what to build, we have this from the community section, which shows different projects people have built. And you can go and you can what we call remix them, which is just copy them to your own account and play around, change things, etc. We
Yeah,
do also have a vibrant Discord community. So it's just Discord.gg. I don't know why Discord does .gg, but slash lovable underscore dev. So you can join us on Discord. It's very active. Also on Twitter, a lot of our users showcase what they're building on Twitter and or X, whatever you want to call it, and
sure.
we post those things as well. So I definitely encourage you to like get involved in the community. I'm super active in the community. I try to respond to literally everybody, but
Yeah,
even if I don't respond, believe me, I'm watching and seeing what you're building and what you're doing, and I am connecting people to you behind the scenes, and you're probably wondering, hey, I was just building this medical platform and now this medical VC reached out to me, and I wonder how they even found out about it. I probably connected y'all on the back end without you even knowing.
yeah, that's awesome. For these community samples that you're showing, so you said you could remix them. Can Lovable? I'm guessing Lovable remixes them by like I guess looking at the project and adding your context to it. Can can Lovable look at like screenshots if people put up screenshots and be like, hey, implement this a thing that looks like this screenshot? Is that a thing that you guys do?
Yeah, exactly. So if you, I got too many tabs open now.
That's fine.
So if you like inside of your project, you click the little plus in the bottom right hand side and you click attach, you can
Huh.
actually attach, photos, videos, files, whatever.
Really? That's
And
awesome.
then, yeah, and then you can say, hey, make it look like this, or I could say, use this picture in my project, etc.
Mhm.
So if you see a website you really like, you can screenshot it, or you can just put in the URL and say, copy this website,
Hmm.
which I've done.
Because you know what they say about artists, right? Like
Exactly.
so it's
Exactly.
not stealing, right? It's inspiration. That's
It's
different.
inspiration. Yes.
Inspiration. Awesome. Well, Talisha, thank you so much for joining us today. I feel like I learned a lot about Lovable. And then to be very honest with you, so for folks too that are watching, like I'd never used it before. This is also my first time like seeing it actually used and seeing what can be built with it. I think Talisha did a great job at answering all the different questions I had and stuff like that. I definitely have some ideas about some stuff I want to like run through it because I'm like For me, I'm a backend developer. I love the backend stuff. I don't do pretty pictures and colors and stuff, and sizing and positioning things. I mean, I'm sure we could do it, but like I just prefer not to. So if tools like Lovable make a lot of sense for me, because then I can focus on. I'm fine putting my hands on the backend code. I just don't want to do the pretty pictures and stuff. So, yeah, this sounds like it'll be perfect for me as a developer. That I want to focus on one side, and I could again vibe code through the other side, or even someone that doesn't write code at all, right? And then you could just give them pictures, like you mentioned. You can give them different contexts. You can give them examples, and then Lovable, the models behind Lovable could kind of like figure it out, right? And eventually come to like a product that you actually want to use. So that's
Exactly.
great.
Yeah,
Awesome.
exactly.
Awesome. Well, again, Felicia, thank you so much for coming on. For folks that are watching, thank you so much for watching. We will be back next week with another episode of Stripe Developer Office Hours. But until then, definitely recommend that you head over to lovable.dev, put in some prompts, try it out, join the community, and then let us know what you build. If you do anything interesting with Lovable and Stripe, definitely let us know on social media. We're also available on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on all the things social. So
Exactly.
definitely feel free to let us know. Love to know what you build. But with that being said, thank you all so much, and we will see you again next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.